Matt Hay, also known as All Right Hay on the internet. Welcome to Airing Your Dirty Laundry.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here on our first deep dive segment. So for anybody listening, I have decided that I'm not going to do deep dives on my own anymore because talking to myself in a room isn't the most interesting thing. So I've reached out and you've given me a topic that you'd love to talk about today, which if anybody can guess by the jumper, I feel like...
Are we? Do these episodes have the whole episode goes live? We can say hello right now. I know some people just do little clips, like our podcast. We just do clips, but
I keep most of it in because
this is the full thing. That's amazing.
Thing,
well, yes, I don't know if you can tell by the jumper.
Kylie.
By the way, given to me by Kylie herself.
I know.
Through a friend of a friend, but you know.
I saw that video where because obviously you did your 10 outfits, which we'll get into, 10 outfits for the 10 shows. Yes, so Kylie Minogue, I thought we, come in and have a little chat because you're obviously an extreme fan.
Yeah.
I don't know, would fan even be the right word?
Oh, for sure. Like super fan, for sure. And no shame. Like, sometimes people get like a little... embarrassed about like loving, they don't want to be labeled a super fan. They want to keep it nonchalant. Not me. I'm like 100% like I'm happy for her to know. I'm happy for everyone to know. I'm like the biggest Kylie stan ever. Well, actually, I'm not. Like I am, but I'm not. I think doing the tour with her this year and like going around to every single show actually taught me so much more about the fandom as a whole, but we can get into that soon.
Yeah, hell yeah. I actually was thinking before we get into Kylie, because we've only just met out on the street at the parking meter.
Yes.
And I thought before we get into it, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions about you and you let me know. All right?
Okay, here we go.
What's something that most people love that you cannot stand?
Lasagna.
Same.
Yes, so lasagna is like my least favorite meal ever, and I hate every texture, every lasagna I've ever had in my life. Like people are like, oh my God, lasagna is like the best meal in the world. And for me, it's like literally, I can't think of anything worse. And I think for me, like my mum growing up, it was her staple meal, which I know for everybody else isn't the case. Like lasagna seems to be quite a special thing in other households, whereas lasagna for me and my family was when mum was like, can't be bothered doing anything, so I'll just throw a couple pasta sheets and some mince together and chuck it in the oven. So it's like interesting how for other people it's like a luxury to have a lasagna, which it was not a luxury for us. Like we didn't grow up with much money or anything. Like that was a lazy, poor dinner. Like mum's just got a 60-cent packet of pasta and some mince. So it's not, I guess it's not like the luxurious lasagna that everyone raves on about, but I will be happy if I never have a lasagna ever again in my life.
Agree. And as a vegetarian, people default to eggplant lasagna a lot, and you always have to be like, yum, thanks so much. Like, you can't complain.
I just feel like my boyfriend's vegetarian, and I feel like eggplant everything. It's like the two substitutions are like eggplant or mushroom, and I'm like, they are the two worst vegetables.
And it's textural based as well. I'm like, I don't want to eat something that tastes like, I don't know, like a chewy sponge that's like, it's not my vibe.
Yeah.
What is your current Roman empire?
I feel like the Kylie tour was like my Roman empire for a bit. Then I did the trip to America and Coachella, and like that was my Roman empire. Like I'm someone who just like finds a new hyperfixation,
I
so
love
to
that
speak.
your hyperfixations as well are like putting yourself in really fun situations and just living your best life.
Which is not always the case. I feel like this is a bad year to know me. Like if you've only just stumbled across All Right Hey this year, it's a bad year to get involved because I'm doing the most extravagant things and my life is never this interesting. And like the Kylie tour, then Coachella and New York, and now we're doing Europe. Like I haven't been on a holiday in like my partner and I have been together 6 years. We've never been on a holiday together besides like going and sitting on a beach. You know, we've never traveled because we got together just before COVID. So we've been saving our butts off and like put a plan in about 2.5 years ago to make 2025 our bucket list year where we do everything we want to do. The Kylie tour was a little different to that. That kind of was like a different goal that I had, and it just so happened to fall in this year as well. But yeah, like we've been working really hard to bring this bucket list year to life, which we also thought we'd get everything done this year, but one, we are running out of money quickly, and two, it's just not humanly possible to do all of the things on our bucket list in the 1 year. So I think it'll bleed into next year. So if you're new to the All Right Hey of it all, it's like, wow, is he just like rich and has no job and like just goes about his life just traveling and doing all of these crazy things that like a lot of people don't get to do in their lifetime, and they don't see that, you know, there's been 2.5 years there of sacrifices really to
Totally.
get here. So it's
And
an
hard
interesting
Yeah.
time to join the all right hey of it all.
What would your warning label say about you?
Do not enter. My warning label would, it would probably be like one of those OH&S warning labels that's like, you need to wear earmuffs around me. I'm very loud. And I'm one of those people who don't realize they're being loud. Just always projecting.
Like when you walk into the restaurant, it's like yours is the laugh that you can hear in the
Yeah,
highest.
unfortunately, I'm like the annoying American in the restaurant. You know, there's always one annoying American in the restaurant that you can hear talking to all his friends. Like, that's very much me. But also then I have some shy moments as well. But for me, I think the thing that probably most people are like, whoa, at is how loud I can be. Even like recording this podcast, I'm sure your levels are going to be like this,
yeah, but
and we're gonna
mine's the
have to
same. When I
balance
get a
them.
big cackle laugh, I'm like, oh, and I can feel it coming out. I'm like, oh shit, and like because I edit everything and I can see the wavelengths go like, whoop.
Yeah.
Like, oh god, okay. All right, let's get into it. Kylie Minogue. I think
Fabulous.
obviously let's start out with like your first discovery or your first memory of Kylie.
Well, that was when I was very, very young. I can't remember exactly what age it was, but I think like the most defining moment is probably the moment that I'll tell the story of, because I'd already been a fan of Kylie up until this point, but I don't really remember much beforehand because at this point I'm 5 years old. So I already knew I liked her. I already knew that I would like that I loved her, and I saw her perform Dancing Queen at the Sydney 2000 Olympics, and I was watching that. I remember watching that in my lounge room. As a I think I was 5 years old because it was 2000. And when were the Olympics?
2000.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they were September, weren't they?
Oh, I
so
don't
I was
fucking
either
know.
4 or
That's-
5.
That's good memory.
I think they were September 15 because I went to the opening ceremony.
If you're right on that, I'm going to fact check this after. I'm like, damn, girl. Okay.
Go Google, girl. We need
Yeah.
September 15th, 2000, because I went to the opening ceremony with the Nikki Webster of it all. But then at the closing ceremony, I watched on television her doing Dancing Queen. And I actually think she performed spinning around at the opening ceremony, which is what I went to, but I actually have no recollection of that night whatsoever. So Dancing Queen, though, is the first like kind of memory that I can think of. And I saw her in her pink sequin leotard with all those male dancers around her, you know, doing Dancing Queen. And I, bless her, think she was lip syncing for her life, but it was the Olympics, so I'll forgive her because I think the Olympics, like literal worldwide broadcast, like you've already got like 100,000 or so in the room watching you live, but then that's being broadcast to, like millions around the world. Like I'd be lip syncing too, 100%. I think, you know.
You wouldn't get me out on the field.
No, literally, I wouldn't be out there. No. So I remember watching as a child that and just something being so connected to that somehow. And I didn't know what it was at that time, but I just remember like watching Kylie doing her thing and just being like, and I think that's the point where it turned me into like a fan for life because I just had some sort of connection. And at that point, I didn't know what it was. It actually wasn't until I was an adult that I reflected on this because I did a tour called Dancing Queen last year, which was based on this performance from Kylie. And basically I had the concept of the show was that I had written a memoir and no one would publish it, so I took the memoir on the road and instead performed it live on stage.
You actually wrote a memoir and
no, it was all just for the show.
Great.
But since I actually have had so many people be like, oh, where's the memoir? We want to read it. Then I like have started writing something. I don't know whether it'll be a memoir, but it's definitely like on that same wavelength. And so, you know, the concept of the show was I was telling stories from throughout my life. And then, you know, halfway through the show, I'm kind of like, oh, we're going to be out of time. We only have half an hour left together. Let me just skip to the crux of the memoir and the reason why. Because realistically, why do we read a memoir? Yes, we want to hear about that person's life, but at the end of the day, you're actually wanting to like fast track life lessons. Oh, yeah. Like if you've gone through trials and tribulations and you've learnt these hard lessons in your life, basically me as a reader, I'm reading that memoir to like fast track that lesson to me so that I don't have to go through those trials and tribulations and learn that. So the next half of the show was kind of like telling my audience what the life lessons were. And the life lessons were kind of serious. But obviously the content surrounding them was very funny and meant to make you laugh. And so it was things like, you know, you've only got one body, so love it, you know, don't waste your time. It was kind of like a serious thing, but then, you know, we poked fun at my body and made jokes around it. And then we did a few life lessons, and then the last one was that life is short. And the 2023, I actually was meant to do another tour, but so many people in my life died around me that I didn't get around to writing and completing the show that I wanted to perform. And so I cancelled that tour. That tour was going to be called Fat and Fabulous. And I ended up cancelling it and didn't take it because once we had announced the tour, my granddad was the first person to pass away. And then I just wasn't in the right headspace to actually write that show. So I ended up not announcing any more shows. And I only took it to Adelaide. It was the place I was meant to debut the show, but I ended up just giving them the show from the year before, which was just called A Night with Australia's Biggest Glamazon, because I hadn't actually performed it there anyway. But the plan was to give them a new show. So in 2023, I kind of said, hang on, I'm not in the right headspace for a show right now. Like, my granddad passed away, and my grandparents were very different to, I feel, a lot of my friends' grandparents, in that they really helped raise me. Like, my parents were very hardworking and had to work really to raise us. So we didn't do like daycare or things like that. We went to our grandparents' house. So I've always been very close to my grandparents. And my granddad taught me a lot of those initial life skills. My dad obviously taught me a lot as well. It's not like I was neglected by my dad or anything. I had a very supportive father and still do my whole life. But yeah, it's like granddad, I feel, just was more there. Like, when I speak to my friends about this and people that I meet, like, they're like, yeah, I don't have that relationship with my grandparents. And I didn't know until I was an adult that was a special,
a really nice
kind
special
of
thing.
yeah.
Totally.
So I wasn't in the right headspace. Anyway, I learnt that year because then from then on, friends, family, my partner's mother, like my auntie, so many people in my life just kept passing away in 2023. It was really scary. I was like, what is going on? And it just made me wake up to myself and think, like, life is short. That's like the biggest lesson I've learned in my life, is that life is short. None of us are guaranteed tomorrow. Sorry to get so deep so quickly on this podcast. But, you know, I kind of was like, I need to take control of my life. This is also what inspired the bucket list year this year.
Yeah.
Because I went, babe, you know,
Anything
these people are all going, you know, and my granddad, he lived a long life and he was definitely more than ready to go. I think he was 93 when he passed. So, and he had fought cancer that many times. He was like, you know what? I'm ready to go. If it's my time, I think by the end of it, he was like, God, can you please send me up there? Come on. But we also, the rest of the people that we lost that year definitely went too soon. And that's where the life is short thing kind of like hit me hard, and I was like, we need to do this. So that's where that kind of came from. And then the Dancing Queen, that was the last kind of lesson that I taught the audience or shared with the audience. And that's where the show kind of got a bit serious, because I always do with my comedy shows. There's always kind of like a serious thing at the end that I want to leave you with, and I want you to so the first show was like all about being authentic, and the concept of that show was that, you know, you fake it till you make it, fake it till you make it. But it wasn't until I started actually being myself that I actually started to make it in this world, and, you know, be happy with who I was and achieve goals and things, because I wasn't so stressed about trying to be someone I wasn't. That was like the point of that. But I told all these funny stories throughout the whole show of like times I had faked it. So with Dancing Queen, I said, life is short. And the thing is, I was so connected to Dancing Queen because the song Dancing Queen itself, because seeing Kylie Minogue perform it at the Olympics, is the song that I put on. Sorry, this is a very long-winded story,
no.
but you did ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, it basically is the song that I put on if I'm in a bad mood. I was saying music is quite, you know, it changes my mood. 100%. I put the sad songs on when I want to be sad, blah, blah. Dancing Queen's the one that I put on if I'm having a bad day.
And when
I'm
you say
like,
Dancing Queen, it's like Kylie's version or
no,
ABBA?
I actually do. Well, it used to be ABBA.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when I was younger, this has been something my whole life. So when I was younger, you couldn't just watch Kylie's Olympics video until, you know, years down the track when you could see it on YouTube and things like that. So it wasn't available, which I think is why I remember it so clearly in my head. And then it actually now is the Mamma Mia version because it's just so much better. Just so much better. So I shared with the audience that like Dancing Queen, that's the reason I titled the show Dancing Queen, is because that's the song that I put on when I'm happy. And because life is short, you need to find your dancing queen. What is it that's going to make you happy no matter what? Because each day you should find that thing and you should be doing that thing, because you could die tomorrow. And imagine dying tomorrow and your last day on earth, you're not happy. Like, imagine that.
Yeah.
So every single day I'm like, I strive to be happy. We can have those moments of, you know, put on the playlist and have a cry, but we've got to turn it around. We can't be stuck in that place because life is short.
Wow. No, honestly, but also I suppose because I say like when you first discovered Kylie and then this has all come from this and you say all these life lessons and it's about who, do you think Kylie then has made a massive impact on who you are today in that way, like of like who you have become to be from that moment?
100%.
Yeah.
I don't think that she has influenced me in as much of a way as I would say someone like Lady Gaga, because I feel like Kylie was there for my very young years where I wasn't really sure of anything. Like I didn't really know much about the world. You know, she was really there for the young part. And then I do feel like when I got to high school, it shifted to Lady Gaga because she was so much more in your face about like being different and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I feel like I would say more so someone like Lady Gaga is like who actually shapes me, and in that kind of that pinnacle moment in my youth of figuring out who I was with my sexuality and all the rest of that, like I kind of looked more to Lady Gaga. I feel like Kylie definitely encouraged my glamour.
Yes.
And definitely encouraged my I want to say confidence, even though that didn't unlock until way later in my life. But I just know as a little boy, like watching Kylie on stage, because that was the whole point. What was so magnetic about that performance? I said there was something about it and I didn't know what it was when I was young. It wasn't until I sat down and wrote Dancing Queen, the show, that I realized that what I was attracted to was she looked like she was having the time of her life. And as a little boy, that's all I wanted was like, because I've always wanted also to be an entertainer. So to see her on such a massive scale being broadcast globally was probably very inspiring to me. But I think at the end of the day, like if you watch that, and you can still watch that now on YouTube, she's just got the biggest smile on her face and she just is prancing around that stage like she's just the happiest thing she's ever been. Yeah. And it's uncanny that the lyrics of Dancing Queen are having the time of my life, because I'm like, you know, that's what I look at Kylie singing that song and singing those lyrics and I'm like, she looks like she's having the time of her life. And so that was so magnetic for me. So I think she's influenced me in that way, you know, all these years later, all I want is to, one, entertain people, but two, just have the best time while you can.
Totally. Can I ask a question? You know how like you say Lady Gaga was really like, you know, you look to her because she's singing, you know, obviously like there's Born This Way, which is like the song that comes to mind. What do you think it is about Kylie? Because obviously that she's such a like icon for the queer community. What do you think it is about Kylie that draws that community to her? This
has been such a big, I guess, conversation that like no one really has a clear answer to, and neither do I, because there are so many things. First of all, her music is very gay. Like her music is very gay. You know, you don't, when you go into a gay club, like Kylie's always playing, but you go to a straight club, like how often is a Kylie Minogue song playing? You know, it's just like inherently gay music. Yeah. And I think now more so than previously, she definitely leans into that. But I think when she first came about, she also came about during the time where, because she herself has said that she never really tapped into or knew about the gay community loving her until about somewhere in the 90s. And I think the difference is you had people like Madonna coming out who were just straight up like sex. And Kylie had that like kind of fun, childish kind of, you know, locomotion about her, and then shifted that angle and was able to like change the perspective to a bit more sexy and a bit more raunchy. And I feel like that's, if we really want to get into it, I feel like there's a correlation you'd find between the way that Kylie almost did the Hannah Montana, the Miley Cyrus of it all, you know, where you're someone and then you really lean into who you either want to be or you just have a sexual liberation, which as gay men we have because we have no idea what's going on with ourselves, and then all of a sudden we go, it just tips over the edge and you go, oh my God, I finally understand. I finally get it. Now I can be free. Now I can start having sex and all the rest of that. So I think that's just my opinion, that there's like probably a correlation between those two things. And I also think that it's just, if you actually weigh up like what Kylie Minogue has done in her career, like it's very much on par with what everyone else has done. But she doesn't get the credit for it. And I feel, again, as queer people in general, that's very us. Like we are doing what other people are doing and other people are being praised for. But because we're queer, it's just expected of us. Or even just me as a human being, I feel like throughout my life, I've been good at so many things that I don't often get praised for being good, because it's like expected of me to like be great.
Do you have an example?
Just in school. If we had a school concert, like it's like, I remember the teacher would like give out merit awards when we were learning our dance for this school concert, and we were doing TNT by AC/DC randomly. And I remember like helping with the choreo and like, you know, making sure everyone was in their lines because I was a dancer at the time. And I just remember sitting there, and at the end, like she would give out merit awards to be like, you did such a good job today. And I'd sit there being like, where's mine?
Yeah.
Like I clearly did the best out of everyone here, but you've given it to like this person with 2 left feet. Obviously, as an adult, I can reflect on that and go, she was giving the merit awards to the people who needed a little bit more encouragement, and she could tell that I didn't. But also, it feels good to be validated sometimes when you do a good job. And so I feel like with queer people, you know, it's very much when we have in Australia the bushfires, it's like, who do we turn to first? The arts, which is, you know, inherently queer and a lot of queer people in it. So like, as soon as something happens, it's like, I'm the first person that someone knocks on the door to say, hey, like, you know, we've got this appeal, or we want, we have this opportunity for you. Well, there's never a fee with it. You know what I mean? Like, it's always like, oh, this would be great exposure.
Exposure.
Like,
you'll be paid in exposure.
Yeah.
My most like hated sentence in the entire fucking world.
Are straight white men getting told that it's good exposure, or are they getting paid?
Yeah.
So it's very much that. I feel like Kylie is, you know, did reinvent herself like Miley Cyrus. She did the whole, she had to deal with the tabloids all talking about her relationships more than anything else. Very much like Jennifer Aniston. She's been compared to a lot. How Jennifer Aniston, like every time you look at the Woman's Weekly, there's like a new article about her love life, but never about like what she's doing. Kylie had to do all that. She even made fun at it. I listened to a Shameless podcast about Kylie, and they made a really good point where, you know, she had been told she was this and that and everything, and she kind of had different eras like Taylor Swift does. And, you know, I'm not saying Kylie invented having an era, but she reinvented herself with every album, and the media would paint her as sexy Kylie, young Kylie, indie Kylie, blah, blah. And she then did the Did It Again video, which is now so iconic, where she actually played those 4 characters against each other, and they all fight each other in the video. Similar to like, this is what Shameless said, they compared it to Taylor Swift's Look What You Made Me Do, where all her eras are fighting over each other because, you know, and the media and what everybody says about it, that it's like, I think the message there is like, everyone else's words affects what's going on in my brain, and all my different personalities fight each other, whatever. I don't know what the actual story is there from an artistic point of view from Taylor Swift, but what I'm saying is Kylie's been doing it.
Yeah.
And she doesn't get the credit that I think other artists get. And I think especially these days, there are a few artists that come to mind that do things that Kylie did 30, 40 years ago, and everyone goes, oh my God, wow, look at Chapel Roan, look at Sabrina Carpenter and what they're doing. And I'm going, Kylie's been doing that since the dawn of time, and no one's given her flowers. And I feel, as a queer person, I can relate to that.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I was actually watching an interview with Kylie, and she was talking about, they were like, I think it was with Molly Meldrum, and he was saying about the eras thing, like you reinvent yourself every time. And she's like, well, it's not so much that I'm like thinking like I have to reinvent myself. It's something that actually came really naturally to her. Like it would just be the next thing that she'd be rolling into. It's not like she's sitting down going like calculating it all. And it was just like this thing that she really fell into. And she's like, I think her quote was like, because if you don't, what do? You just die. Like she's like, that's just me. That's just like what I'm putting out. And I totally see what you're saying. Like all the connections to what you see now. It's like pretty incredible.
Yeah. And I think we all actually have eras of our life. And I think it's just so much more prominent because of the scale that they're on. But think about even as much as like the clothes you're wearing. Think 5 years ago, were you wearing those clothes? What clothes were you wearing? Think 5 years before that, what clothes were you wearing? It won't be the same fashion. And I'm not talking about just catching up with, keeping up with trends, but, like 5 years ago, I went through a phase of like wearing all these big fluffy pink tutu dresses. And that was like what I always wore. Then a couple years ago, I was like in a Camilla caftan era and that's all I wore. And now I'm like a little bit more, subtle with the whole thing. Like I think after the pandemic, I'm just like I can't be bothered.
I need to be comfy.
But yeah, I need to be comfy. So like we're all continually evolving. And I also think if you don't grow, you don't change. And how boring not to reinvent yourself and have a new era.
And you've got to give yourself permission to be able to do that, right? Like you've got it. Like okay, like for an example, 5 years ago I was teaching primary school. I fucking hated it.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
I mean, I really thought I liked children. Turns out I like the ones I know personally. I don't like the ones that are like in my classroom that I have to try and make them do like algebra.
Yeah.
So that was a different thing. And like now I'm sitting here talking to you. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have imagined that. But the thing is, I gave myself permission to not get stuck. Like I could have easily just stayed in a career that I didn't like because it was like comfortable or had good pay and it would allow me to travel a little bit. But then I was like, you know what, I'm not going to do it. But you have to, and I think that's probably another thing that when you look to Kylie, like she kind of gives the permission to be yourself. And maybe that's where it comes from as well, and to change and to, dive into what your most authentic is now for you today,
And I think the gay community goes hard for people who stand up for us, which she straight out the gate said, when, the news would be like, what do you think about the gay community, supporting your music? Are you okay with that? And she said, of course I'm okay with it. She came straight out the gate and made her stance clear. She showed up for things like Mardi Gras.
And that would have been years ago where it was like probably
this is
way
back in
more.
the 90s.
Yeah.
And then she came out for Mardi Gras many times. She was very vocal about the plebiscite that we had in Australia. And I think we're seeing a very similar thing happen right now with Addison Rae. Addison Rae has lent straight into I am for the gays and it is paying off because, I got tickets to her show.
Yeah, me too.
And I mean, there were 54,000 people in front of me in front of the queue and she's doing the Animal Theatre, which holds 2,000.
Which night are you going to?
Tuesday.
Me too.
Oh,
See you there.
I did get seats because after Kylie, I am geriatric. I think I can't stand at a concert ever again in my life. But yeah, so I think the gay community just goes hard for people who go hard for us.
Yeah. And it's so true as well. Like I feel like the gays and the girls, if you've got the gays and the girls backing you as like your fandom, because like there was also a quote, I don't know who the hell said it, but it's like, to do with Taylor Swift, like they're the people who are going to show up and buy the merch. Not that it's all about money. They're going to buy the merch. They're going to be a part of every single release. They're going to buy the album. They're going to stream the album. The straight men aren't going to stream the album.
The gays have the disposable income. We don't have kids. We maybe have a dog, but we've got dual income household and no responsibilities.
That's it.
So the gays can always buy a record or two.
That's it. Let's talk about the 10 shows because obviously you wore 10 iconic outfits. I was going through all of them and I was reading all the captions that you wrote, and I loved how each night felt different, like how you were in the nosebleed some nights and then you're up front. I guess start out with, when did the idea come? And so for anybody listening, it was 10 Kylie Minogue shows, 10 different iconic Kylie Minogue outfits, and I'll maybe put some of them on the screen so that people can see what I'm talking about. But was it ever boring? Was there ever a night where you're like, I don't even want to go, or was it fresh the whole time?
No, it was fresh the whole time. I definitely didn't get sick of it, but I'm glad that I switched it up. there have been times in my life where I haven't had the funds to even be in the room. And that devastated me, especially for the Aphrodite tour, which is probably her most iconic and one of the most iconic tours in the world. It was so like far technologically advanced. Like we still haven't seen anything like it ever since. And this is back in, oh gosh, I can't even remember now. It's like 2011, 2012, 2013. I don't know, around that time. She had the Aphrodite tour. And this is around the time she had released All the Lovers, which again, gay anthem, Get Out of My Way. So she was really killing it at the time. She did Aphrodite. She had this huge stage. The whole thing was inspired by Greek mythology. She had water cannons and water jets on the stage. I
saw this, and it like spurted out around the side of like a shell or clam or something.
She had a splash zone, so you could buy tickets to be in the splash zone, and you got wet during the show, during the concert. So there were water fountains that shot up like 30 feet in the air. Like she had, the costumes were above and beyond, all kind of inspired by Greek mythology, designed by Dolce & Gabbana, custom made for the show. It really went above and beyond anything we've ever seen. And as I said, we haven't seen anything like it since. So that's one tour that I missed out on, didn't have the funds. So that killed me. And then a couple years ago, when she had the Golden Tour, she came out for the Golden Tour, which was 2018, 2019. I remember being so far back again, and I've never been close. I've always been like up the back, whatever. And I remember saying to myself, like, this isn't good enough.
Yeah. I
can't do this. I need to be front row. I'm like, my mission in life is to be front row, and I want to get a meet and greet. I have to meet Kylie Minogue. I need a meet and greet with her. So let me start saving. And I saved my money. And I made a separate savings account, which I then hid in my bank and actually forgot about for quite some time, like 2 years. I was like, oh my God, yeah, I've got a bit of money in there. So I saved $10,000. It took me ages to save $10,000. And then the pandemic hit and I actually had to spend the $10,000. Well, I think I had like maybe $6,000. And the pandemic hit and I lost my job and I was at home. And at this point, we didn't have the job seeker of it all and anything. So I actually was just spending the money on my rent and groceries and things just to, because, especially at the first 2 weeks, we were told it would be 2 weeks. So I was like, I'll spend a bit of money. Totally. I'll be back at work in 2 weeks anyway. Yeah. And then I never went back to work. And even with social media, like all the jobs went out the window and blah, blah. And had no income, had to spend all the money in that account. And then I was on Job Seeker, which was actually the best thing because I was like, the government's giving us so much money, but I actually
so rich during COVID.
Yeah, I was like, I actually don't have, that many responsibilities if I'm just staying at home. Right. There's nothing to, I wasn't at that time, I'm a bit different now, but I wasn't at that time an online shopper. Yeah. So I didn't like shopping online. I thought, no, it'll get lost or blah, blah. I hadn't converted to online shopping. So I wasn't spending any money and I was just funneling that back in. That account got to $10,000. I hit it and I literally forgot about that account. And then she hasn't been on tour again until the Tension tour was announced. And I went, oh my God, I've got that account. And I went, here we go. Now, because of COVID, she also doesn't offer meet and greet ticket as so many artists don't, because if, you get COVID, you're out for however many shows. So it's not worth the risk to meet fans and things like that anymore. So I totally understand that. But that meant that I had $10,000 sitting there and the most expensive ticket that she released was $700 and something. And I went, oh, well, I've got so much money in this account and the top ticket is $700 and something. I was like, oh, I've really overshot, overcompensated for this. So I thought, oh, well, we'll get that ticket and see how it goes. And so I tried to get the front row ticket and got it. And I went, wow, that was actually really easy. And of course, now when the tickets went on sale, we were starting to see that cost of living crisis that we're in. And I was like, no one's got any money and I accidentally have this $10,000 that I saved a couple of years ago. So perhaps no one's trying for these, $800 tickets or whatever they were because no one's got any money, right?
we're
So I was like,
poor.
that seemed really, really easy. So then I was like, well, let me do it again. So then I thought, I've got so much money, I may as well. And then I thought, well, let me try it in Melbourne. And then I did it again. And then I was like, well, let me try it in Brisbane. So then all of a sudden everyone was like, you know, I told everyone, I was like, well, then I got all these things, got all these front row tickets. And then people were like, and then I realized, that Perth was going to be the first ever show in the world of this tour. So if I went to that show, the whole thing would be a surprise and we'd be the first audience to see it.
Yeah, you wouldn't see any of it ruined on TikTok and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I better do that. So then I budgeted and thought, I've still got money in the kitty. I could fly myself over and, you know, blah. So I did all that as well, went to Perth, and then I thought, well, if I'm going to Perth, I might as well go to Adelaide. And all of a sudden, then I had tickets to every city, and then she added more dates in each city. And I went, well, I'm already going to be there. So
and I got leftover money in my Kylie kitty.
It was just so silly. And I had more money left over in the cart, and I thought, well, we may as well. And then I decided to go to all the shows, which was actually amazing because that first Perth show was so different to the next night in Adelaide, was so different to the next night in Melbourne, was so different to the next night in Melbourne, was so different to the next night in Melbourne. And then from there, it kind of stayed the same.
Okay, so she was like figuring it out kind of. That's really cool.
But then we got to Brisbane or Sydney and it changed again. And I was like, so you asked whether I got bored.
Yeah.
Boring. No, because every time it changed. And then even like Padam Padam then became a remix and there was a different dance sequence to it and different lighting and different backdrops and then different costumes came out. Like,
Fun.
So it did keep it like fresh. And the only thing I will say is that front row is scary.
Why?
Being that close
Really?
is like a little awkward for me.
Did she look you in the eye?
Oh my God, so many
Shut up.
times. Because she knew from social media. She commented on
Shut
some of the
up.
outfits.
So she knew it was you?
Yes. She said that her team told me that before the concert she would be refreshing my page going, where is it? And then it would drop. And she said to her team, as soon as it drops, as soon as you know it drops, you need to let me know. And so she was getting her makeup done or whatever, warming up. They'd be like, here's tonight's outfit. And so she knew. And also I was doing those really niche outfits that I just knew, even if no one around me knew what I was wearing, she would.
And she would.
Yeah.
Totally. Oh my God. Makes me really anxious. Because like
it went locking eyes.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of like,
Dude, same
It's
thing,
like-
right? Because
Yeah.
like my number one in the world is Coldplay.
Okay.
Like obsessed. I went to all 3 Sydney shows that they've just come past.
Nice.
So I guess we can kind of relate on that front. Didn't dress up like a middle-aged white man, but that's okay. But the thing is, when I saw them back in like the Viva La Vida tour, which was like 2009, I was on the barrier and Chris Martin looked me in the eyes. And it was like this moment where I dead set was like, he must know who I am because I have watched every single video of him online. Like it was almost like I'm like, hey, like, you know, but then you're like, no, he has no fucking idea who I am. He doesn't care. But like, I know what you mean. Like it's intense, right? Like, yeah. So
it was intense, but then also like, it was like almost awkward.
Yeah.
Like I was like, hey, you know, like close enough to have a conversation, but there'll be no talking happening, you know? Like,
how long does she linger in the eyes for?
Not long, which I did appreciate.
Okay,
I did appreciate.
yeah.
And it's better when she's further away.
Yeah.
So sometimes she'd be further away and she'd look over her shoulder at me and like give me a little wink or something. And I'd be like, love that. But like literally I was at some points this close to her as we're sitting. And I'd be like, it's a little close, Kylie. Back up. Back up, Kyles.
If you wouldn't mind, just give me like a considerate, like just a couple of 2 steps backwards.
God, yeah.
That's hectic.
After everything was said and done and I'd booked all the flights, all the accommodation and all the tickets, I still had like $3,000 or I think it might have been like $2,200 in that from that $10,000. And I was like, well, this $2,200 is going to create all my looks. And then I had the idea to do the 10 looks. Now, the 10 looks for the 10 shows, I actually, you know, spoke into existence the day that I booked it all in. But then I didn't do anything about it. And it actually wasn't until about 3 weeks before the shows that I sourced all of that stuff from like Amazon and Fashion Nova and ASOS and like wherever, the depths of the internet. Like I ordered from some very dodgy websites to try and source all of the materials to make all of the looks. And Yeah, it was kind of Kylie-bounding. So it wasn't, which for anyone who doesn't know, there's this thing called Disney-bounding, because when you go to Disneyland, you can't dress up as Alice in Wonderland because you might confuse the kids.
Which I didn't know about. I only read about that in one of your captions. I had no idea that was a real thing.
Yeah, so like you cannot dress up as a character at Disneyland.
They turn you away.
Yes, you won't be allowed in the park. But what you can do to like pay homage to Alice in Wonderland is you could wear a blue skirt and a white top and a black headband. Because that's giving Alice in Wonderland without looking directly like Alice in Wonderland. So that's kind of what I wanted to do, because Kylie infamously does not wear any clothes half the time. Like she's got very skimpy outfits on and shows a lot of body. For me, that's just not my style. So I'm like, I want to take her outfits and make them my style. I also have, you know, my whole life had a specific body type that needs a certain way of dressing to look flattering, to be comfortable, blah, blah, blah. So there's also that aspect. So I was like, right, I need to take her looks and, you know, make them me. And so that's where that Kylie-bounding kind of term came from.
Which you did. I mean, they were all like, like you said, like they're so inspired by, and I think you did it so clever, because you also want to feel comfortable in your body while you're watching something that is so important to you. Like the last thing you want to be doing is thinking like self-consciously, you know, you want to just be in the moment and feeling comfortable, which is like the way to do it, right?
Yeah.
What was your favorite outfit, do you reckon?
Favorite outfit was the red, like a drug outfit. But also a close second would be the Love Boat outfit, which was the floral white kind of blazer, because that one, well, it's also hard. I don't think the Aphrodite one wasn't my favorite outfit. Like it could have been better, but it definitely meant the most, because as I was saying earlier, like I didn't get to go to the Aphrodite show, and then the Aphrodite outfit was the outfit I wore to the Adelaide show, which was my first front row show. So I was sitting front row in the Aphrodite, and that was like a healing my inner child moment, because I was like, you know, 10 or so years ago, I couldn't even afford to be in the room. Now I can afford to sit front row and wear the outfit from the tour that I didn't get to see. So it was like a big full circle moment. But I think like the one that I felt the hottest in would have been Like a Drug, which was the red ensemble for Sydney with the red conductor's hat and the long red gown. And then Love Boat was just really fun, because that also represented the first time I ever saw her in the flesh.
In the flesh.
Yeah, coming down on the anchor.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah. That meant a lot to me too, and I also just looked really cute in the Love Boat fit as well.
Did people at the shows like recognize you, like knowing what you were doing?
Yeah, well, it was actually kind of crazy, and always a security risk half the time, because not only did people know me from my online persona, they also just recognized the outfits and may have just like wanted a photo, not even knowing who I was. And then because all of the videos were going viral at the time, people then who had never seen All Right Hey before online had just seen me on their TikTok For You page, and then they recognized me and then would look out for me at the shows. And then it became this little mini phenomenon where like people were then uploading videos of me from afar at the shows, and like, you know, people were saying that they only bought tickets to the Kylie shows because they had seen my outfits and they had FOMO.
I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Right. It became this thing where like people I'd walk into the arena, like I walked in the arena at one of the Sydney shows, and you know, outside the venue, heaps of people coming up asking for photos, blah, blah. Inside the venue, heaps of people. Then I was like, okay, I've got a breather. Let me walk into the actual thing. And I'm just walking down the stairs, and the crowd just starts cheering. And like people are just clapping at me for the outfit that I'm wearing, and going and like cheering and screaming. And I'm like, oh my God. And then those videos are like being posted on TikTok, and like everybody's.
That is.
Do you know? It became this little phenomena, right? And the funniest part is, as I was saying earlier, like this taught me a lot about the fandom itself. You know, because a lot of people say things like, oh, it's such a shame she didn't go to the effort of like meeting you and doing a meet and greet. Like that would have been the most perfect end to the story. Yeah. And I agree, but I also was like, that never was my intention. Yeah. She doesn't owe me anything. No, and also because of COVID and stuff, I totally get it. Like I do not expect that at all. And
it's like you're doing this for you, not like to
for
like,
sure. And also, I also want to say I did that Kylie Minogue, you know, shared all of it on social media for me. Genuinely, I actually thought that I may lose followers and that people would be so disinterested in the whole thing. I genuinely thought it would be one of my worst performing things ever, just because it is so not like anything I've done before. And I just go, I don't think people care,
Like
you know?
maybe it's too niche.
Yeah, too niche. Like I was
yeah.
like, I don't think people care. But what happened was it actually went tenfold and actually grew my profile so quickly. A lot of people actually came on board because of it and
Love
have like stuck
that.
around. But yeah, the thing is, she doesn't owe me any of that. But what I learnt was, compared to some of her fans, what I did was nothing.
Interesting, because this was going to be like something I was going to think, like, what is the Kylie, because like, you know, we look at like the Taylor Swift fandom, which is nuts, like they're crazy, or I don't know, like there's fandoms all over the world for different artists, but like the Kylie fandom, is it a nice place to be?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone I met was just so welcoming,
Yeah.
especially because it was a little bit new, like I was a newbie.
Yeah.
You know, I always sat out the back, whereas all of these people in the front rows and stuff, they sit front row every show. They've been, you know, I met people who have been to 65 Kylie shows in their life. I met people who were doing what I was doing for 65 shows. I met people who, one lady that I sat next to had come from, I believe she had come from America. She was doing all 10 shows in Australia and I think 32 all up. But I've since followed her journey on TikTok and she's now added, and I think she's up to even more than 32
What, she goes
shows.
all over the world?
All over the world. I don't know what she does for work. But yeah, there was like the thing is, compared to other fans in the fandom, what I did was no big deal. And I know to us and to me and to everyone I speak to and everyone on social media, it's like, wow, you've gone above and beyond, which I absolutely did. And, you know, people saying, you deserve to meet her. She should have met you, blah, blah, blah. I go, it would be so unfair because the only reason that would get, if she did meet me, the only reason that would have got that across the line would be my online following, because there are plenty of people doing way more than me who haven't had the opportunity of meeting her. And I think as well, a lot of the fans that I met from around the world, unfortunately, she just does a lot more around the world in terms of promo.
Okay.
So these fans are really lucky because they can just go to a record store in New York on record when her album releases, and she'll do a signing and a meet and greet, which she just doesn't do here. Which she doesn't need to.
Yeah.
She's Kylie fucking Minogue. Like, she's done it all in Australia. So I feel like she may have done all that in Australia, you know, way down, you know, previously. But now that's where she wants to tap into.
Yeah.
So I totally understand it. But yeah, unfortunately, there's just like more opportunity for some of those people. So they'd all met her and everything like that. And they were all rooting for me. They were all rooting for me. They were really hoping. And she did do something special for me in the end. She gave me the jumper and the keyring.
I know. I saw that video of her, like, of
that little
getting
note.
that. Yeah,
like,
that note. Did you frame it?
Not yet, but it's in a very safe place in my house. And like,
it's under lock and key.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I just don't know. Like when I frame it and everything like that, it almost feels like, it feels weird to like, I just don't even want to touch it at the moment. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just so special to me that at the moment I can't even think about framing it because I'm like, I actually don't want to touch it. It's,
interesting.
It's
it's got her essence all over it.
Well,
So,
I don't know what it is, but I just, you know, you'd think that the first thing I'd want to do is like frame it and put it up in my house. And it is in a space in my house where it's like on display for everyone, and everyone who it comes over, like I make sure I point it out. But yeah, I'll do that eventually. It's just one of those things I haven't got around to. Yeah.
I mean, it's just so beautiful. It's like, it's so, I don't know, there's something so amazing about people who have these like deep loves for artists. Like, I get it. Like, I've got it with a couple. I mean, obviously Coldplay is the one. And like, I just love hearing from other people that just like obsess over a particular musician in that way, because I think it's like, not just because it's like about the human, but it's about so much more, and like what that gives you and the kind of like who it creates you to be. And so I think thank you so much for like coming in and sharing this with me, because it's like, I don't know, I just really, really love hearing about it. And I love stepping into your world, because I'm not like, I know like not a handful. I would know a lot of Kylie Minogue songs, but it's not my world, you know, and it's just so cool to be like taken into it for a little bit. Yeah. So, well, thank you. It's like so fun to talk to you and watch your face light up when you talk about it, because it's like, it so is though. It's just like, I love nothing more than speaking to people who are like passionate about something, and particularly music.
Me.
So thank you so much for coming on, and maybe Kylie will see one of these videos. We can get another comment.
Hopefully. Come into my world.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
That's all right.
Okay. Bye, everybody.